think that both of these women are falsely accused and should be released from prison immediately. I'm a forensic scientist and a former CSI, and looking at my comments, that's what it seems like you guys think I have been saying. Because I said that I did not think that the state proved intent in the Mackenzie Shirilla case, and then recently because I made a video explaining how I did not think that Taylor went to Reagan's house with the intention of committing murder. And it's very clear to me that some of you guys listen to about 10 seconds of my video, leave a comment, and then scroll on. So let me explain and reiterate what I was talking about specifically with Taylor Parker. In that video, I was talking about how she was found to be in possession of a tranquilizer, how she confronted Reagan in the garage by the open garage door, and how she delivered some head wounds to Reagan. And I was saying, I don't think that she went to the house with the intention of committing the violent murder that she did. Obviously, she went to the house with the intention of performing this C-section and stealing this baby. Obviously, she delivered dozens of injuries, so during her time there, she developed intent. Obviously, a reasonable person would understand that Reagan would not have been able to survive and she would have died, and obviously there was no plan for what to do if Reagan didn't die and woke up and identified her, because then she would go to jail for kidnapping. But if you watch the documentary, you know that this girl never really had a plan. She just went from lie to lie to lie. She tried to orchestrate a multi-million-dollar real estate deal with no money. She bought a car and gave it to somebody and then had to take it away because she couldn't pay for it, and she was just gonna say like, oh yeah, it was a recall. She just didn't have any forethought. The girl was a fucking idiot, and she was delusional and probably a narcissist, and only ever really cared about the immediate thing in front of her. So in the grand scheme of things, does it matter if she went over there with the intention to perform a C-section and kidnap a baby versus if she went over there with the intent to commit murder? No, it really doesn't matter, because what she did was a clear and deliberate homicide, and either way, she went there with the intention of committing a felony, and any reasonable person would understand that Reagan was certainly going to die. The point of that video was just to talk about the issue of her bringing this tranquilizer with her and what I think she thought was going to happen in her delusional little brain. I genuinely think that she thought she was going to be able to get away with it because she was only thinking about the immediate issue. The immediate issue is I'm 10 months pregnant, according to everybody around me, and I need to have a baby. So she was just thinking about how to get baby. She wasn't thinking about anything beyond that, which is very obvious because as soon as she was confronted, her entire plan fell apart and she got arrested, as she should have been.
So I wouldn't go as far as to call Taylor an idiot because she was able to successfully fool so many people for so long. She basically fooled an entire city. But I don't think that this creator is wrong when she says that Taylor didn't have a plan. So if you go to my first video, I did another video on Taylor and this entire documentary, and I talked about how Taylor exhibits a lot of traits from the cluster B spectrum, whether she is narcissistic, borderline, histrionic, or anything else on the cluster B spectrum. And I also mentioned how people on the cluster B spectrum are notorious for being manipulative, gaslighting, lying, but they can also be very sporadic and spontaneous as well. And even though their lies and manipulations and gaslighting might be very well crafted, might be very sophisticated, a lot of the time they're really just kind of coming up with stuff right off the top of their head. It's the reason why if you have ever experienced being with a narcissist or anyone who has had that experience or has been involved with one, whether it be in a romantic setting or not, you will notice that whenever they've come up with their lies or their manipulations, like it seems like they're just pulling things out of the sky, right? And you'll hear people talk about, and I talked about in my last video, talking about word salad, where sometimes it just seems like they're just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. And in particular, when it comes to Taylor, if you remember in the documentary when she was talking to Wade, and this was something that Wade picked up on, this was when Wade started to kind of feel like something was going wrong. She said to him, she didn't say, I'm going to go have a baby. She said, I'm going to go bring a kid home. And I pointed this out in my last video as a part of her manipulation of how she was phrasing this. I'm going to go bring a kid home. Almost in a way of by any means necessary. Now, did she plan out a murder? There's a good possibility that she didn't plan that part of it out. Now, obviously, that's the result of doing the things that she did. But you also have to keep in mind that in Taylor's life, and from Taylor's perspective, she just kind of figures things out as she goes. This is the way that she goes about life. This is the way that she went about everything else in her life. The cancer diagnosis, the multiple sclerosis diagnosis, the real estate scheme. She just kind of comes up with lies as she goes, as she needs, and whatever sticks, she just goes with it. And I think that there's a good chance that she thought that she would be able to pull this off. And if she were questioned about it, that she would be able to just come up with some lie and get out of it the way that she has pretty much her entire life. And even if she did have a plan, it obviously wasn't a very well crafted plan. She didn't plan on hiding it very well. She didn't plan on what she was going to do with Reagan's daughter. And these are some indicators to me that Taylor really just didn't have a plan whatsoever. Now, I think that she got the appropriate sentence of death row and all of that, because in some cases, not having a plan and her doing things like this in a lot of ways makes her even more dangerous. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.